Resistance to intrinsic flow is causing such trouble. Holding on to what I want is impossibly tough. It slips right through my fingers and it pops like a bubble. Reality is calling my bluff. Yeah, it's all about changes. Everything changes. Impermanence comes in and nothing stays the same. It's been that way since you were born, a simple truth that you've ignored. Changes. Yeah, everything changes. Just look how everything must change. Nothing's forever. Perspectives fade and shift as we grow older each day. But one way or another, some way we will discover impermanence, our friend or foe, is teaching what we need to know about changes. How everything changes. Impermanence comes in and nothing stays the same. It's been that way since we were born, a simple truth that we've ignored. Changes. Yeah, everything changes. Are you gonna run from it or wake up in this life? Time is so short, the truth is right before your eyes. Changes. How everything changes. Impermanence comes in and nothing stays the same. It's been that way since we were born, a simple truth that we've ignored. Changes.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. First of all, I'd like to welcome the new people in the house, the guests, and to explain to them that practice of removing your shoes when you come into the meditation hall is just a practice of mindfulness. It's about a way of alerting me to where I am in this moment. And when you see people putting their heads down to the floor toward the Buddha statue, it's not about worshiping any idol or Buddha statue or anything. It's just, again, another exercise in mindfulness. Letting me be aware, opening my awareness to where I am and what my responsibilities are in this life. I'd like to thank, first of all, the people who came yesterday? Yeah. To the concert. It was wonderful. It was terrific. So maybe you'll catch the next one if you didn't catch the last one. But it was a wonderful experience. We talked about impermanence, about emptiness, about what is real and what isn't real. And so I'd like to know, how are you doing with your practice? How in this time of shifting, are you in contact with your equanimity? Are you enjoying peace, or are you disturbed? That's the question. Yes.
Well, that right there is an example. I'm not sure if that right there is an example for me that I paused instead of just going. I've noticed that for myself, even in a moment that may not be comfortable for me, I'm able to meet that discomfort with compassion for myself and the other person involved. And even though I don't enjoy that moment necessarily, upon reflection, I recognize a shift, and that is the whole point of the path. So for me, every moment is a moment of Dharma, and every moment is not an obstacle like the Ganesh on my leg. It's that opportunity to continue my practice with demonstrations of kindness and loving compassion for myself and every other being.
Okay. Okay. So everyone is handling the moment with great peace and balance. Is that right? No one's... All right. Well, this is what we want to get to. We want to get to the reasons why our practice isn't being effective for us in the present moment. That's what the practice is designed to do, is to help us to coexist with the moment in a very balanced and peaceful way, to not be disturbed by what we perceive as the goings on. So we'll start with the images that we see on the screen every morning when we turn on the news. You've got two opposing talking heads, just trying to push the other down, trying to discredit the other, and insisting that their view, their perception, their truth is the truth, and that my job here is to convince you that your truth is false and for you to adopt my truth, to go away feeling about this moment like I feel about this moment. But there's another way to practice, and the practice is that none of those are truths. That our examination and our definition of what this moment is all about is an exercise in futility, because everything changes, including my perspective on the moment. And when I take the time to say that it's good or it's bad or it's neither of these or it's both of these or it's none of these, that before I get the words out of my mouth, it has changed again. So the practice is to employ that awareness. We talked about the reality that there is no thinker. There is thought, but there is no thinker. And it is for us to be able to sit and observe that. Now, where will we find thought? We will find thought in consciousness. So our attention then should be focused on consciousness, and involved or embedded in consciousness is awareness. And that awareness of what is or is not is closer to the truth than anything else that we will embrace. So if you are able to sit and be aware of awareness. That's all. That we talked about resisting the temptation or the duty to name the moment something. This is good, this is bad, this is hard, this is not, this is easy. The ability to sit quietly and not be disturbed by anything, because we're not trying to make anything anything. We're just present with it. It's called present moment awareness. We're just present with it. We're not labeling it the moment or the action or the person or the tree. Well, we're not even calling it a tree. Because the only reason we think it's a tree is because we think it's a tree. So thought or consciousness or perception has more to do with identifying it in the way that I think it is, as opposed to it being what it really is. And ultimately, as we watch this scenario, we realize that what it is empty. It's like having the world and your reality as a great big coloring book. And it's just squiggly lines with white pages or white background, inside and outside of the lines. And your box of crayons is your perception. And you say, I think that this is this color. And I think that this is a tree and I will color it green. But someone who lives along the parkway, Blue Ridge Parkway, will color a tree red and orange and yellow. But those who practice equanimity and silence won't color it anything. They will let the tree present to them what color the tree is. And be very careful when they define it to others, will say, though, this is the way I see it. But this is not the only way it can be. Let me know how you see it. We talked about the idea of, or the opening up to, the presence of dialogue. And that means I have to give you an opportunity to talk and express, just like you've given me an opportunity to talk and express. Because nothing else is dialogue. If we're not talking back and forth, if not, everyone isn't getting to have their say, speak their piece, that's not dialogue. It's monologue. So the first thing to do is to acknowledge that there's this presentation of emptiness that we insist on making hard and solid and real. And we suffer, we are unhappy when what we've called it, what we've named it, how we present it, changes and is not accepted by the other. We forget that it is a part of our responsibility to allow the other to call it the way they see it. Because in the ultimate senses, none of it exists anyway. Everything in samsara, everything in this reality, this manifested reality, is mind-made. In other words, it's mental. It's a mental construct. And when we truly get to understand that even the idea of chasing awakening or enlightenment is a construct of mind. So when I say to you, define and explain to me, outpicture to me, the unformed, or the unborn, or the unmade, or the uncreated. There's a coin that says, what did your face look like before it was born? So, let's think about that for a few minutes. And then explain to the rest of us what the uncreated, the deathless, the emptiness, what does that look like? What is that? Can you describe it to me? Can you describe it to us? Can you tell us what it is? Because we don't know. Okay. Who has the mic? Who wants to start?
I believe it's the light. I believe we come from the light,
Okay.
and after we leave this vehicle, we go back to the light.
Okay.
The scientists call it the unified field, but I call it the light.
Okay. What does the light look like?
It's blissful, and it's just a white golden light.
Okay.
That's the only way I can describe it. It's peaceful and just blissful.
Now, I understand I'm not picking on you. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of things. Now, I don't want to do that. You won't come back. You'll go someplace else. But in trying to get to the bottom of things, I want you to get to the bottom of your thing too. And so when we say that it's the light, or it's bliss, or it's happiness, or it's peace, or it's emptiness, we have presented a creation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking about is getting to the truth of it before it was anything at all. Because as soon as it comes to be something, then it can't be anything else. So if I say that whatever words I'm using, I want to make sure that they include not only the light, or not only God, or not only creation, but what was happening before there was God or creation, or what was before that?
Nothing.
What did the unmanifested presence of this light look like? Was it dark? That's another creation, isn't it? That's another, you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So can you take me before it was manifested as light? What was before that?
You know, I think we all have to just relate to our own experience.
Something, we lost while you're waiting for the technicians to no, we need that input because we want to hear for future generations what it is that you have to share with us.
Just nothingness.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but just nothingness
Well,
to me.
What we're getting at is not important for it to make sense to anybody but you. Because you're creating it. You know, it's your page on the coloring book.
Right.
And what we can learn to do in our learning how to coexist and be together and work with one another is to allow each individual to see it their way.
Yeah.
Okay? So first of all, that's the way. But also to encourage each individual to go even deeper.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not saying that what you see is wrong or in error. I'm just saying, okay, now, do you think that there might be something even deeper than that? And you might say, I don't want to go any deeper. I just want to stay in the light. Well, that's fine. Okay.
I choose to go deeper. That's why I'm here. You know, I can't do it by myself.
Okay. All right. Great. the willingness to go deeper and the willingness to admit that we haven't seen the beginning of this yet, or the period before it began, is allowing ourselves to open up and have that experience. If I think that I know it all, then no one can tell me anything more, right? But accepting that and being open to that, being open to investigate and look for that uncreated part, that unmanifested part. What does God look like before she became God? Okay? To be willing to ask that question, and then to sit and watch and wait. And yes.
Well, while she was talking a minute ago, I was thinking about what I feel we came from or where we're going, and I came to a conclusive conclusion. I honestly don't know. I don't know where I came from. I don't know where I'm going. But I know where I am. I'm right here. I'm listening to other people speak. I'm absorbing information that I can use to better my life.
Okay.
And when I'm at school, I'm also absorbing information that will better my life. I don't know when I'm not absorbing information, but I just feel as if I don't think where we came from or where we're going really matters. It's just what we're doing now.
Well, I would ask you to consider the fact that when we know where we're going, we have a better understanding of the direction to take. If I don't know where I'm going, I don't know who I am, then I kind of go around in circles. And I allow anyone to tell me anything and embrace that as what is true. So, as ideal as that sounds, that isn't for me.
Point taken, and what you said makes a lot more sense than what I was saying.
I learned from you, my friend.
So I've been investigating that one from talks here and something I've been reading, which is one of our Dharma contemplations, so thank you. It's one of our past ones, because I'm not here for them. And my thought process was similar but dissimilar to that, which is what my face looked like and what my face will look like are only relevant to what my face looks like now and where I am in that present moment because of the impermanence. It's much more difficult to describe to someone who's not perceiving that answer, because your comprehension of the words coming out of my mouth and my comprehension of how I'm trying to express it are both influenced by our own perceptions of what your face and my face looked like before they were our face.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
When you started with the koan about what was your original face before you were born, I have discovered something that works similarly for me, where when I try to think about the essence of what I really am or what it all really is, words don't wrap around that easily for me, and it is reminiscent of when I was little and I had a cooking set. And I had frying pans and little spatulas and pretend food. And that's what it feels like, that my human brain can only have the play cooking set. I can't know what it really is like to cook. But what I've discovered is if I sit quietly and don't move and ask myself, how do I know my hands are still there without moving and just feeling into what is? And there's no words that can wrap around the experience for me. But the best I can do is there's like this full expansiveness that comes from a heart space, not a head space. And that's the best, the closest I can get to real cooking in this human body at this moment.
Okay. Don, did you want to say something?
Anybody else? One of the personal things that I have learned here and in other teachings, but especially here, is that which perceives and that which is perceived are both by nature empty. Mm-hmm. That is, both are pure energy, interconnected, interdependent energy. And as in quantum entanglement, therefore the communication between them is inexpressibly perfect. And as far as going backward, it seems to me that before there was anything, there was unmanifested potential.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're saying something, or you're holding the mic?
I'm not sure I'm on the right track here, and I've been listening and puzzled because it's far from the way I think about where I might have been before being born, but something that comes in, and I question it religiously. I don't know, but what's coming up for me is karma or karma.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
When we had an inquiry over here, an experience of tenderness occurred. And
so you had a feeling of tenderness?
A feeling of tenderness.
Okay.
And the moment before that, I can't really say was there non-tenderness, but I didn't feel like I was producing the tenderness, but it was palpably felt a very caringness to the moment.
Okay. All right.
It was.
All right, so we want to have an exercise where we begin to investigate who we are, where we came from, and what we were before when we were there. And the only way to do that, someone talked about direction and going or coming, but the only way to do that is go backwards, to seek the source of our initiation into this reality that we call life and living. So we first of all realize that, or we ask ourselves, well, what is the seed I'm chasing? What is this presence that I want to put under the microscope to examine further? You know, and we heard the light and we heard some other things. But if we go back and examine what we know or what we think we know about biology and physiology, we realize that we have to go back to the womb and the egg and the sperm, and what was the egg before it was an egg, and what was the sperm before it was a sperm? And what did that look like? And what kind of life did that have before it manifested this way? But the point is, we cannot just sit and write that on a tablet and then say, well, I think it's this, or I think it's that, or I think it's the other thing. We've got to look at it. We've got to watch it. We've got to see it. Because seeing is believing. Or seeing is thinking we're seeing. But the only way to get close to it is to examine it, is to look at it. Is to realize that all of the books we've read and all of the lectures we've been to is just someone's opinion. They don't really know. They're just telling us what they think they know because someone told them. And remember, it wasn't that long ago when we thought the world was flat. Lots of things we've grown beyond as far as fable and story and origination. But the idea is to see for yourself, to come and see. Come and look for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Look for yourself. So what is it now that we have to generate that allows us to look for ourselves? What do you think that is?
I think that it requires mindfulness and exploring the conditioning that occurs prior to the things that we see in the moment.
All right.
And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
so a recent experience for myself is noticing my reaction to things that people do or experiences that I find out about, like, a molestation of a 4-year-old child. And I was in horror about that in the past. And now what I think of is having the compassion for that person and the child, and looking deeper into what might be the conditioning that had that person behave in that way, which then gives me nothing near emptiness, but it does pull me out of the reaction and the wanting to take some kind of anger maybe
Punitive.
out on a person like that.
Yeah, punitive.
Yeah, a punitive kind of perspective.
Right.
And that for me is significantly different in how I think about life now, I suppose.
Thank you.
It's like, what would have caused that person to behave in that manner? And then, so it's helped, like, at least bump me out of that.
Yeah, so you realize that there's cause and effect.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's growth, isn't it?
Tremendous.
Yeah,
Tremendous amount of growth.
okay. I see a hand and right behind you, Scylla.
So I just have a question, which is, are you saying, or is the goal to go back to where we were? And if where we were was the perfect place to be, why did that change? Why did we go away from that and have to work so hard to get back to it?
It is said that we are attempting to access the reality of the unmanifested, and that once we reach that, we don't leave anymore. So why we left in the first place, I don't know, because I've got to ask someone else who is unmanifested just like I am unmanifested. As long as all we're doing is talking to people on this side of the veil, we cannot have a conversation about what's on the other side of the veil. So you asked a great question, well, why did we ever leave? I remember in one of my studies, it was suggested that all of us is an expression of God. And when there was only God, there was no one for God to talk to. And there was no capacity of relationship. So there needed to be at least two gods in order for a conversation to ensue, in order for questions to be asked, in order for relationships to be established. Now, why did the two gods become four? Or why don't we all just go back to being who we truly are? Because being who we truly are is not the extension of who we truly are. That whatever I think I am, there is something that comes before that, and that's where we started to sing out, wasn't it? Where did we come from? Who are we really? And as great as your question is, you'll have to wait until you get there for your question to be answered. And I don't know why you left there. I don't know why I left there. I know that if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have left. But here we are, right? Searching, and trying to, at the same time, enable and assist others who are saying they're trying to find their way back home. And just as Elsie talked about discovering her compassion, her deeper sense of compassion, and developing the ability to not quickly judge others because of what we are told that they've been doing or done, or it is proven that they've done something. But in the past, we've been quick to pick up a rock and cast the first stone without looking at ourselves and looking at others before we do that. And if anything, for me, what has been obvious in these last years or so is the capacity to generate kindness and tenderness towards those who are accused of wrongdoing. To not be quick to judge, to not be quick to condemn. To realize and understand that all of us here have made mistakes that we wished we hadn't done or said or whatever. That there are things in our lives that we're more than happy that no one else knows about. And just as we appreciate and have appreciated the second chances that we've gotten in life, the third and fourth chances that we've gotten in life, that it is a part of our walk, a part of our heart, a part of our responsibility to offer this gift to others. So perhaps the reason we came back was to access the reality that allows us to observe the imperfections of others, because we never see our own, and to gift to them the second chance, the third chance, the fourth chance. Perhaps it's that simple. That we were a part of a world before where God was unforgiving, judgmental, was angry when we said, I see another God over here. It's just something to think about. Yes? Then don't ask me the question if you know I don't know it. What are you trying to do?
But, do you bring, in other words, you have genes that you have now, but you've inherited them from your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents. So somehow you were in another world, but you're now in this world, but you're still taking things from the other world and bringing it into this world.
Okay, and what's the question?
So we were saying, you were saying, we don't know what was prior to being in this world. But
we don't know what the unmanifested or uncreated looks like.
Yeah.
Or the deathless looks like.
Right. But
Okay.
however, we're still bringing all this other stuff that we inherited from the other, so to speak, other world, from people who have passed on, from family, relatives, and we're bringing it into.
Well, remember what we're alluding to, though. We're saying
That
that wherever we go back and find stuff, that's not the place to be at. We haven't gone far enough yet. We're saying that as long as you trip over stuff, you're still in the manifested reality. No matter what that stuff might be, whether we call it genes or DNA or
Right.
precursors to life. But the point is, if we're someplace where there's something, we're not at the place where we want to get to yet. We want to get to the unmanifested, the deathless, the unborn place. So.
But we have all these things in a way that stop us because we have terminology, DNA.
Well, the
Yeah,
teaching
right.
says we are stopped not by the things that we see, but by the importance of the things as we categorize them, and the fact that we are unable to let them go because we think that they're desirable. As long as I think I am, and I hold on to that, then I keep recreating or rebirthing self. So the thing I have to do is to let go of the importance of the created self, identification with the created self, where I can merge into the source, the potential that has no name, it has no identification, it has no individuality, because it is the pool, the source. Well, if I call it a pool, then I've called it something. So it's very difficult to even talk about it rationally. But it's not that difficult to begin to access it, and that's what I'm talking about.
So then it's not that, what I was just, okay, so what I was just saying, and I'm just thinking about that as you're explaining it, is that part, like the DNA and that part of it, is just the body. You know how we just say like we're a body or a mind. So that's what we're in right now, it's the body. So it really has nothing to do with who we really are, like what our being is.
Are you really the body?
Well, yeah.
No.
I'm not. Oh, no, I know I'm not, but in today's
No,
world,
you're not.
yeah, I
No,
do
you're-
think
come
I'm the
on,
body.
no.
You know, I got a body and I have a...
None of that.
Okay, you're none of that.
None of it.
That's what we're trying to get to.
I know, but...
Were you going to say something?
Stop arguing for it.
So could I tell a little joke, a little funny story?
Go for it.
Okay, so little Dina was in art class. She was really small. I mean, it's not really you, but kind of like you. It was an art class, and she was drawing a picture, and the teacher came up to her and said, "So what are you drawing?" She said, "Well, I'm drawing God."
Mm-hmm.
The teacher walks away and comes back in a little while, and she says, "You know, nobody really knows what God looks like." And she said, "Well, they will when I'm done."
All right. All right, there you go. That's where we're going.
Now, if it was a selfie, you've got an ego issue and need to go to the counselor. So as part of this, and I'm thinking about the emptiness of not thinking about the tree, the slug, the cloud, the breeze when I'm out there hiking, is part of this the emptiness and jhana of focusing on the breath during your meditation, which is when you're more in tune and in tap with that emptiness. And from a physiological, scientific perspective, you're only able, and we as humans are only using an nth capacity of our brain power, which for some people is probably good because it could be scary out there. But the fact that we're not even able to tap into our full brain itself, not in this body, brain itself, and therefore the whole question is a rotating perpetuating conundrum, because you're not even able to tap into it, but the closest you can get is through that emptiness of breath. When you're not labeling the tree, you're not labeling anything, you're just there.
Well, the thing that I think we all have to do, first of all, is to agree to the diagram that we want to present. Like, this is where we're trying to go. We want to sort of diagram it out. And so when we talk about not knowing God or not knowing where we came from, we've got to know who we are before we begin to try to define or redefine ourselves as we think we are. And so what I mean by that is that Deidre was alluding to the fact that a part of her construct is genes and DNA and as source material, or as material that has been put together from some other place that's not us, and has been merged together and melded together and constructed to define me. Well, you know, when I say, well, who is me? Well, I know it's, first of all, I know it's not formed. So that way it eliminates the genes and the DNA and all of that. Because I know I'm not this body. Because this body does what it wants to do. So I know I'm not in control of it. I know it's not me. I'm aware that I have a body, or that the body is here, but I know that's not me. And so the first thing we have to do is to realize and look at the fact that if I'm not the body, then who am I? Well, I'm also not feeling, because feelings come and go, or I can be aware of feelings, or I can watch feelings. I'm not perception, I'm not thought, and I'm not consciousness. Now we have to be very careful when we talk about that word consciousness, because first of all people say, well then what's left? But what we're talking about in this formula is sense consciousness. So eye consciousness, nose, ear, touch, right? That sense consciousness. I am not those things, because we know that because somebody can come over and poke one eye out, and you will no longer be able to see how that eye will not operate, but you're still aware that it's not operating. You still know that you can see out of one eye, but not out of the other. So that eye consciousness is gone, but my awareness of sight and non-sight is still there, so that I'm still there in some capacity. And what we're talking about doing is just continuing to observe our internal milieu to come to the lowest common denominator. And once you get to the lowest common denominator, the lowest factor or the base factor, then you realize, and I've still got another block to go. Even though I'm right there, and it looks like I'm at the source of things, I'm at the mouth of things, I've still got more steps to take. But it's all about elimination, right? So, let's just go in and find out what our awareness looks like. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and have a sense of the capacity of awareness, presence. We're going to find that awareness, which is how we can identify ourselves close to the source of ourselves, and see if we can hold on to that, and see what gifts that brings us, what gifts that gives us, by being aware, being capable of being aware. Not mindful. Mindful is presence. But awareness is aware of that presence. So we're peeling off the layers. We're finding out who we really are and who we really aren't. So we can stop struggling and stop fighting for things that, or arguing for things that have nothing to do with us. Because it's a tree. You ready? Okay. Remember, this journey is about allowing, loving, and being kind to everybody everywhere. And giving them the kindness and the respect and the permission to be who they want to be, even when they don't want you to be who you are. That you have enough love and kindness in your heart to share with them and let them be okay. Not to go along with what they say you should be or not be. And I know in somebody's head right now, saying, well, why don't they turn off this alarm? It's because I want you to continue to watch awareness in the moment and not allow your mind, which is not yours anyway, thought, to be drug off into some sidebar. So that when we walk the street and when we walk the halls and when we go from one place to another, we will not be disturbed by the others, the confusion of the others, the pain of the others. But where we can, we will bring them comfort. So this week, stay aware. Be aware when you slip, when you get pulled into someone else's stuff, when you listen to the news and get angry. They're not talking to you, they're talking to cameras. You're tuning into their world, they're not tuning into yours. Okay? So, what we're doing is making this work, making this practice vital and alive for us, so that we don't have to experience the same thing that the majority of people in the world are experiencing. Fear, confusion, the rigidity of insisting that everything be the way I want it to be. Be soft and gentle with everyone. Smile at a stranger. Thank you so much for everything you do in the way that you allow us to introduce certain ways of learning and understanding that are not traditional. But that's because you're special. Not on the short bus. Hey.
Ain't nothing wrong with the short bus, say it.
May all beings be liberated from suffering. May we be well. May we be happy. May we be peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May no problems come to us. May we always meet with success. May we also have the courage, the wisdom, and the patience to face and overcome the inevitable difficulties of life. Thank you so very much for everything you do.